I really think Girls Last Tour is as close to perfect when it comes to slice of life that I've ever seen. I just love this series. One of the stars of this series is how good the soundtrack is. Like, when they were kind of like broken down on the side of the road and you saw all those giant metal like pillars just stuck in the ground, there was this very ominous kind of sound effects playing. It almost felt like a soundtrack, but it was more or less sound effects. It almost sounded like a rusty like swing set kind of moving. And it was a very eerie and creepy sound, but it didn't make it feel like it was dark. It somehow made this dark sounding piece of music actually feel positive, and it's just impressive how much the range of this OST and the individual soundtracks can go to really build on the atmosphere that the art style is doing a fantastic job doing, and it just makes it such an immersive series. But the interesting thing with the series as well is how it's so innocent with the two central characters, Yu and Chi, but at the same time, it's also kind of like throwing in the forefront, if the world did end, you more or less have to come to terms with hopelessness and understanding that the world isn't going to get better, essentially. And that's kind of a dark thing to kind of throw at the viewer and even the characters, but if we remember back with Cameraman a couple of weeks back with his camera, he almost just kind of died. He was giving up on life, but he came to accept that hopelessness and realize that if I live another day, I can try again. And that's essentially the moral of the story again with another new character, which I really appreciate. They're not going heavy with new characters. It feels like every few episodes we might get introduced to a new face, which is the route I think the show needs to go to keep it fresh, but at the same time not remove the charm, which is the two central characters. And I love this girl, how essentially she's like in this like military base, and she was designing a plane based on some old blueprints, and I didn't expect the end, to be 100% honest. Like, I never got the impression that something horrible was going to happen. It just felt very positive. It didn't feel overly positive, so I never was like, okay, something bad has to happen. But when you see the plane fall apart, I was kind of shocked. I was like, are they actually going to make this a dark series? Because I didn't know which route they were going to go. But luckily, she followed the blueprints to a T and did attach a parachute there, because holy hell, that was a little disturbing for a minute. But I appreciate what they did, because she's smiling as she's going down, because even though she failed, she gets to live another day, and that hopelessness kind of becomes company in this very dark and gloomy world. And even though she's going to be fallen to the lowest level of this place, she still gets to try again, and I think that's a really interesting message that they're going for, that even though this world is destroyed, human life isn't a very common thing. You go on years without running into someone. It's interesting that this entire show is kind of building on the sense that even if you fail, if you still live, you can try again one more day, and that hopelessness is kind of what you have to grow accustomed to, and it's a very interesting thing, and I really appreciate how they're going the route of this. It doesn't feel overly dark, it doesn't feel overly positive. It's just this very ignorance is bliss in a lot of ways feeling, and the atmosphere just continues to be on point with all the different set locations. It just feels so good, and I just love all the little kind of chibi modes. Like, there's that one moment when the new character gets introduced, and he's like, you know, I'm you and I'm Chi, and together where, and then it gets cut off. Like, that was just such a hilarious scene, and they just doesn't feel like they're trying to be overly funny, but when they sprinkle in jokes, I honestly think they're really, really solid and quite humorous. And I think the show knows exactly what it needs to be, how it needs to pace its overall structure and arcs, and I really enjoyed. I'm really excited for next week's episode to see what they're going to do, and hopefully in a few episodes we'll see another new face, because I think it does add a lot to the series. It doesn't remove from the charm, but it adds that extra layer of elements that just helps it to stay fresh. I love this episode, but let me know your thoughts. What was your favorite moment in the episode, and did you expect that plane to fall apart like it did? Because honestly, I did not see that coming. But let me know your thoughts, and before you leave, smack that like button, share your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.